Okay, this is an introduction into what we have coming up in the next couple of weeks. So let me show you what we're doing. This is the first part of our study of the philosophy of suggestive therapy. We could look at this as the philosophy of suggestive healing. This will be an informational lecture on this book by Dr. Thurman Fleet, published by the Concept Therapy Institute. Now, this book isn't available right now, so you can't purchase it. It may be being remodeled or revamped, but I want to go into a little bit of details with you as to what we're going to be doing. In this book, here's just some things to get an idea of what we're looking at. We're going to talk about the power that heals. What is it? What is this power that heals? It's referred to as a mysterious element over the years. We're going to learn about the history of how this came about and how medicine came about. How the healing principle works. Well, most people have no idea what this healing principle is. They don't really understand the creative process, the manifestation formula, but it has to do with the one and only process of creation on the evolutionary scheme and in the human scheme. Well, the riddle, what cures? This will all make sense as we move forward over the next few weeks. A new body and mind approach to healing, healing efforts, this idea of faith plus the image. This will be enlightening for many of you. And then the big secret of healing. These are some of the big topics that we're going to be covering that I'm inspired to teach over the next little bit of time. Well, what's the purpose? Well, here's the purpose overall. We want to recognize the principles underlying the healing of functional or psychosomatic disorders and its application to doctors and laymen. Why functional or psychosomatic? Well, here's why. Why not physical? Well, we don't need the physical in this aspect. Here's the idea. You saw this idea of a chart that represents all the expressions, causes, and effects of disease. The expressions can be either organic, the causes due to poisons. The effects are all the symptoms that you would experience if you had been bit by a poisonous animal or had a germ or a parasite or some type of pollutant. Then there's a structural expression of disease. That's through trauma, falls and slips and trips, and those things. The poisons and traumas, those two categories fit into the physical aspect of disease. But all other disease fits in this category, functional, meaning it's auto-suggested, it's self-inflicted. 80% of all expressions and causes of disease is because of this. A genetic tendency, so it runs in the family and you don't change your dietary habits or you don't change your lifestyle. Intense thinking of disease, vibrations of disease, or you run into these emotional disturbances, distress, and inner turmoil. Why are we talking about the philosophy of suggestive therapy and then later its application? It's because 80% of all of our causes of disease are due to autosuggestion. So there's no better question that we could ask is, well, what is suggestion and how is it going to benefit me? And then once we finish this idea of the philosophy of suggestive therapy, well, then you might have an interest in taking Dr. Fleet's course on suggestive therapy and suggestive therapeutics and how healing works. This is Dr. Thurman Fleet. You can see he was born in 1895, 1983. Most known for finding concept therapy. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. In his biography, Where There's a Will, There's a Way, which I'll have it come up in a minute, he was in the Army, the military, many awards, medals, but he came home early because he had shrapnel in his brain. They were giving him mustard gas in the lungs. He only had about a year to live, and they sent him home. And, well, he lasted longer than a year. And after that, he decided, well, they lied to me. And so what do we do? Well, he decided to get healthy, and he found a chiropractor. and he had bad headaches, and the chiropractic fixed it immediately. And this drew Dr. Fleet to wanting to understand something about chiropractic. And then, besides creating an incredible healing system, besides creating something called concept therapy and conceptology, and created the laws of the body, mind, and soul, quite the inventor. And he was instrumental in the chiropractic profession in creating models of healthcare and other such things. And all of this is well spoken of in his biography, Where There's a Will, There's a Way. But what I thought I might do is I might read from something real quick, because it'll give you insight into what's going on. So here it is. He said, in his young practice, he flourished. He had many successes, but he had a few failures that worried him. He meticulously analyzed and double-checked his treatment, each failed case, and wondered why chiropractic hadn't worked. He said in each instance, he adjusted the patients just like he's been taught. Why was there a failure, he asked himself, and this troublesome question came home dramatically when he treated two patients with the same complaint. One got well, the other didn't. How could this be? Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. He couldn't dismiss it from his mind, so his wife tried to reason with him. Give yourself more time. She says, you've only been in practice 3 months. But nothing anyone said alleviated Dr. Fleet's disappointment and confusion. He refunded all advance payments to his patients. He shut his clinic down early to think on the problem. And then on December 17, 1931, he secluded himself in the bedroom, and he wasn't to be disturbed. And his wife immediately contacted her brother, and she was very concerned, and they needed his level-headed assistance. And her brother Calvin rushed to the house, calmed Delia, and went right into the room where Thurman retreated. The first thing he noticed, that Thurman had shaved his pencil-thin mustache. What a surprise. He'd always been a bit vain about his mustache. Well, Thurman greeted Calvin, and while they chatted about mundane things, Calvin realized his friend was quite pale, and suddenly Dr. Fleet proclaimed, Cal, I've tuned in to the secret of healing. And so the point of this story is Dr. Fleet says he had some type of illumination or some type of peak experience, and that thus led us to this philosophy. And he developed concept therapy, and from there, of course, the Rays of the Dawn, our law book, Natural Laws of the Body, Mind, and Soul. And this is a picture of the gate in San Antonio of the Concept Therapy Institute, the Amsat Ranch that 1949 is when he originally came across that. So I thought that might be a little bit of neat stuff for you to see and understand some background behind what we're going to do. And then I'll leave you with this before we get into the next section. Why would we be considering teaching suggestive philosophy? Well, read with me. Dr. Fleet created the study and application of universal principles, universal laws of all science, theology, and philosophy about the human personality. It is the science of the cause of disease, whether that cause is from physical, mental, or spiritual planes of being, and it's the science and art of removing the cause of disease, utilizing physical, mental, spiritual methods in the teachings of the natural laws which govern the body, mind, and soul. So he dedicated his life to that mission, and I'm here to help share and teach. See you next time.